What's going on? Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. We're here ready to rock and roll on a Tuesday night. And yeah, we're continuing the Elm Street debates. We got Rachel here tonight to hang out with us. And this is going to be a lot of fun. How you doing? Oh, I think you're muted.
Look, okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, just a little bit of technical difficulties, people. We're back.
All right. All right. So for you guys in the chat, thank you so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate it. We got Scott in the house. What's up, Scott? We got Paula. Hey, we got Russell in here. All right. Good to see you, man. Hope you've been doing well. Awesome. Eric. Eric's probably like, you should have let me on the panel. What's up, bro? What's up? Good to see you, man. Hope that you're doing well. What's up, Spoof in the house? Good to see you. Aim punched. That's right. Let's get down to brass tacks. You know what's going on. What's up, Gene? All right. And we got Troy in the house saying, I love it too. All right. We got some fans of Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child. And yeah, this is going to be interesting. If you guys have not been around for our Great Debates series, it's really, really fun. We get a chance to get into some of the different topics of these films. We've already gone through the whole Halloween franchise, and we're just getting pretty much started on Elm Street. So I can't wait to see what we get tonight for an overall score. What we're going to be doing, just explain it to everyone who might be new here. We're going to score Elm Street 5 based upon categories that are going to be randomly picked by the wheel. We're going to have 10 scored categories, okay? And so just to show you guys what we've got as possible categories, we have atmosphere, the mythology, cinematography, Freddy Krueger's makeup, of course, the dreamscape, the characters, the final girl, and we also have 2 talking points for categories. We have the worst scene, we also have the best scene. Those 2 categories will not be scored if they are chosen by the wheel, the random wheel. But the other possible scored categories are the story, the kills, Freddy himself, the directing of the film, and the it factor. Okay, so those are our possible categories. We're going to go through 10 and we're going to see what the score will be. What we're going to do is each category gets a score, and then we're going to take that total score at the end, and that will be the score for Nightmare 5. And ultimately, that's how we're going to rank the Elm Street franchise. And that is that's the interesting part, because you just never know. Some of these categories, as you can imagine, and Rachel, obviously you've been on multiple panels for this series, some of these categories work really well for some of these films, and some of these categories may not. So that's the thing that's challenging. Okay. And we also got Ryan in the house. What's going on, Ryan? Ryan saying, hey, Rachel. All right. Good to see you. And you might be muted again, Rachel.
Oh, gosh.
There you go. Now I can hear you. but
So there
it's
might just be a little bit of a delay on my end, probably
okay.
just my internet.
Yeah. And Danielle, what's up, Danielle? We got Keith in the house. What's up? You guys. Oh man. All right. So let's bring up the wheel. That's how we're going to get to these categories. And again, random wheel, 10 categories. We do have two of these categories that will be basically talking points,
Talking points,
meaning
yeah.
that, we're just going to kind of give our opinions on it and those won't be scored. So let's bring it up. Okay, here we go. We've got the wheel. And of course,
The
the great
lovely
Lisa.
Alice in the middle.
That's right. The great Lisa Wilcox, which by the way, if you guys had not seen when we had Lisa Wilcox here on the channel, it was
Oh,
absolutely amazing.
that's
And
awesome. I'll have to find that interview and watch it.
yeah, yeah, it's under our interviews playlist. And it was so cool because let me just tell this story. I love this story so much. So we went to the horror convention, I think it was well, now it's been a year and a half, but it was a big Elm Street convention. A lot of the Elm Street people were there, and we got to meet Kim Myers from Elm Street 2. We got to meet Lisa Wilcox. We got to meet, um, obviously, Heather Langenkamp and Robert. It was so cool. And what we did that was really cool. We spent a lot of time with Kim, with Lisa and Heather. We got there the
Mhm.
first night, and there wasn't a lot of people. So Coriander and I, we were talking to Lisa Wilcox for like 15, 20 minutes, just hanging
Awesome.
out type of thing, and Heather Langenkamp. It was so cool. And I'll never forget, I said to Lisa, I said, if you'd ever be up for an interview, we have to get you on the channel. And she said, yeah, sure. Gave us her card, her number. And I just couldn't believe that it actually came to fruition because those types of
That's awesome.
dime a dozen, yeah, 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 I'll do
Mm.
it. And it's not to throw shade on the celebrity, but they've
They're
got a
busy.
thousand things going on.
Yeah,
But she held straight to her word, and it was a fantastic conversation. So, anyways,
that's
it was
awesome.
yeah, man, she's a lovely person, lovely person. All right, so he said the wheel looks like something out of a Smashing Pumpkins music video. All right. Oh gosh. Hey, look, Eric's messing with me. He said Kim Myers, the star of Hellraiser Bloodlines. I know Knight was in awe of meeting her for that. I told her, I said, you were the best thing in Hellraiser 4. You were the best thing. And she smiled and kind of chuckled. And I was just like, man, but she was awesome. Kim was very, very cool. All these folks were, even Robert, obviously, Robert, very cool and kind to the fans. So, all right, let's get this thing going. Our first category, and Rachel, you'll start the conversation off. Let's see what we
Okay.
get. Oh boy. Yeah, this is great. I love this series. This is great. The Dreamscape. So when we talk about the Dreamscape, we're obviously talking about the nightmare sequences in the film and what we think of them overall. So Rachel, when you think about the Dreamscape, and also just to remind people, we're scoring this 1 to 5, 5 being amazing, 1 being horrible. And we can have zero 0.5 in our score. So we could do 1.5, 2.5,
We cannot
3.5.
have 0. I learnt that
Can't
the
have 0.
hard way when
We
we did Halloween Resurrection.
it's like, don't mess up the math here. All right. So
All
scale of 1
right.
to 5, what do you think?
Look, I have to say, I don't love the dreams in this one, and I think one of the reasons is they kind of mess up. And again, we'll talk about this when we get to another category. But the mythology, because half the time the dreams just start randomly, and you don't even know
Mhm.
where the characters are. Are they even asleep? Are they even in bed? And some of the dreams in this one, okay, some of them I did think were very cool. Things
Yeah.
like the asylum and that whole gothic feel when she was going through the old, asylum and she saw, Freddy's mother and all of that. I thought that was kind of cool. But
Mhm.
some of them were like, we're getting into like extreme stupid Freddy now. I mean, that sequence where he turns Alice's boyfriend into some sort of like Mad Max road warrior. Like, I don't know what that
Ah,
was about.
oh man, you didn't like the Iron Man. Okay.
are we in Terminator suddenly? Because he's like
Yeah.
speaking to him through like the motorbike, and that was just weird.
Right.
And then we got some other like, who thought of like Fat Cass mob boss Freddy? Like that was like when that came on the screen, I was like, what are we doing here, people? Like, why does Freddy look like the Penguin? It's not working. Oh, and then, oh my God, baby Freddy, that might be the freakiest baby I've ever seen in a movie.
Yeah.
And I'm including the CGI baby from Twilight in that, okay? When you're scarier than that
Wow.
baby, then you are. So I think for me, these dreamscapes were kind of right down the middle. I think there was some
Okay.
that were really good. I think there was some that were really stupid, and they kind of evened themselves out. So I'll go with 2.5 for this. Pretty much very average for me. I think so. What
Okay. We're
about
gonna
you?
2.5. Well, I think that listen, man, we could do a whole stream, and I've got an idea for a whole new series, and this movie kind of inspired it. But we can talk about the roller coaster of things going on in this film. There are some great things in this film, and there's some things that kind of made you go, that's
Yeah.
interesting of where they're going, with the franchise. Now, we're only scoring this film, but because there were four other ones before it, you can't help but think about the things that those movies either did well or maybe not so well, right? Okay, so just to throw that out there, I think the Dreamscape in general, it was creative, so I want to give them credit. Again, being the fifth movie, you've got to keep trying to push forward. You can't just do the same old thing. But that being said, I think that there were times when it was just kind of I was just kind of like, what movie are we in? Are we in an Elm Street movie? Are we in a Tim Burton movie? What are we doing? And again, that's not so much a knock. It's just kind of how I felt. And of course, rewatching it. I mean, I've seen this movie hundreds of times since I was a kid, but watching it now to get ready for this, I was just really paying attention to some of those pivots, like you said. So I think overall, it was creative, a few stumbles, but I'm gonna go with a 3. I'm gonna give it a 3 because I do appreciate the creativity. There was also some things that we hadn't necessarily seen before, which is tough to do, especially in an Elm Street film. So I'm gonna go with a 3. Let's see what we got in the chat. See what you guys are saying. Um, hey, what's up, Gory Tiger in the house? What's up? Scott is saying the Dreamscape is a 2.5, not horrible, but not that memorable to me. But the Dan Bike Dream Kill was awesome. I agree. That was definitely one of those moments that was like pretty damn cool. Um, Eric saying that, and that's true. The dreams start randomly because they're the unborn baby's dreams when they do. Yep. And RJ's in the house, and same to you and to everyone else. Happy early Thanksgiving. Yes. Troy saying, plus Alice is a daydreamer, set up in 4. But there you go. That's an interesting point. I like that. Um, and Troy's coming in with a 4.5, if not a 3. Okay, so tell us which one. Tell us which one. Eric's going with a 3.5. Dan turning into the motorcycle is great, along with all the Amanda stuff. Greta is disturbing. Marx was lame. Yeah, Marx was super lame, bro. I mean, yeah, I think there was some creativity to it. Um, but I just think put it this way, it was a great idea on paper, no pun intended for that nightmare, but it just didn't deliver for me, you know? It didn't deliver. Let's see. And Willis is in the house. What's up, Willis? Good to see you. Russell's going with a 3. Okay. And hey, we got Mary in the chat. What's going on, Mary? Good to see you. Saying hello to everyone. Saying this is one of the greatest out of the series. Okay. We got some big fans of Elm Street here. All right. Danielle is going with a 3.5. Scary, yet still a bit cartoonish. Okay. So Troy says 4.5 then. I'm assuming the sets and look are considered part of it. Yes, I mean everything about the nightmares is going to be part of what we're trying to score it. So this is what we're going to do, Troy. We're going to put your score officially for you guys that are the channel members on the second tier and higher. We're going to count your scores. So just make sure that if you do want to put your score here officially, just let us know that that's what you want to do. Um, and also, hey, we got Julie in the house. All right. Good to see you, Julie. Hope you're doing well. Very cool to have you. Um, and Rachel, you might be muted again. I'm not sure.
And oh dear, or is it just the
Well,
delay
well,
with
at
the
one
mic?
point, because I thought it looked like you said something, but I didn't hear anything. But maybe that was
Probably.
just
Like,
me.
yeah, it's probably just that I don't have the greatest internet, so it tends to, yeah,
I
break
know
in and
what
out.
I know what
Hopefully
you
we get
mean.
the important things.
That's right. That's right. Okay. All right. So that's what we have for the Dreamscape. Let's get ready to go to our next category and let's see what we get. Okay. Here we go. And I'll start this one off. Aha.
Ah,
Okay. The cinematography. I think the cinematography was pretty good. I think especially the finale. Um, as crazy as that finale is, the cinematography was very good, and I'm sure we'll kind of get to that stuff a little bit more too. But I think they did great stuff with the camera work. You felt like you were part of the world. I will say again, and it is what it is. I mean, this is the fifth film. I will say that there were times when it didn't feel like it was doing anything super special. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's weird. This is to me, this is an entry in the franchise that is weird because there's a lot of great things in it, but there's some things that were kind of like, that was an interesting choice that they made. So I would say for the cinematography, overall, it was pretty good. I'd give it a 3.5. How about you, Rachel? What do you think?
I agree with what you're saying. I think there were some parts that were done really well. Again, I really do think a lot of the asylum shots were done really well. You go down
Yes.
those long corridors and it feels like we're traveling with Alice. I also thought that Freddy's resurrection was actually done quite well, as he's coming up from the church. And I thought the angles there were used really well. But I
Yeah.
also agree with you where there were definitely parts where it could have been more creative. And that was, I think, during
Yes.
some of the kills and like some of the more like the dreamscapes. Like I'm going to go back to the road warrior scene. Like I think maybe the reason I didn't enjoy that much is that they just weren't doing anything that interesting, and it was a little bit confusing at times, like chopping from here and there. So I do think
Yeah.
that it was decent. I think it was solid, and I think it had some standout moments. But I'm going to go with you. I think a 3.5 is a fair score because it
Okay.
really wasn't. I mean, there are definitely nightmare films that have been filmed better and have
Hmm.
better cinematography, but like I said, there were definitely some effective scenes, and I think that was mostly the
Yeah.
asylum scenes.
Yeah, the asylum scenes definitely were probably the centerpiece, as it probably should be with how the story was constructed. And I will say for Dan's death, the Iron Man or the Road Warrior, however we want to call him, there was a lot that the MPAA cut out. There was a lot that they had to,
Oh,
get rid of,
okay.
and the
Yeah.
kill was so much more gory, and
Mhm.
I think it was just a better scene, the uncut version of it. Um,
Okay.
but of course, we can only score it on what we see. And
Yeah.
we went through the same process with the Halloween films as well. Because again, when you're talking about the big three, especially in the 80s, the MPAA, especially with Friday the 13th, the MPAA hated the big three. I mean, they were just waiting for these films to get done just to be like, nope, nope, nope. You know what I
And
mean?
all the fun right out of them. Well, not all the fun because we still enjoy them, but it could have been
Right.
that much more fun.
That's right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. No doubt. No doubt. And Mary is saying she's going to go with a 4 for the
Nice.
cinematography.
Hmm.
Okay. Troy's coming in with a solid 4. The non-dream sequences are quite flat
Yeah.
in comparison. Yes, that's exactly what I was saying. I think that it's interesting because as much as this film was trying to do some new things and kind of give like a fresh coat of paint on the franchise, there were things about it that were so like meh. You know what I mean? And it's weird to say that, when I saw this as a kid, your whole perception is so different when you're a kid.
Oh
When I saw
yeah.
this as a kid, I was just like, yeah, I'm a Freddy fan. I'm like, let's go, Freddy. Let's crack all the jokes we can. It's fun, yay! And then as time goes on, and you look at it a little bit more closely, especially for something like this where you're scoring it, those perceptions can change. So, um, let's see, who else do we have in the chat? Russell, we haven't gotten to the Power Glove yet. I can't wait for that. I just can't. Scott saying, admittedly, it's been quite some time since I watched Nightmare 5, but I'd say 3.5 is fair. Yep. All right. We got Bronson in the house. Happy early Thanksgiving to you too. Thank you. Thank you. We got Hollywood guy. What's going on? Good to see you. And yeah, Willis, this definitely had a more gothic type of feel, and that was by design, by Stephen Hopkins, who directed it. So I appreciated that. Although, and again, that's what's fun about these discussions, because sometimes we can go on tangents, or at least I can. Although I will say, I don't think that gothic feel was as grounded, um, or as fully realized compared to something like Jason Lives. Jason Lives. I mean, Tom McLaughlin. It was just dripping that gothic vibe. You know what I mean? Not that we're comparing the two, but I'm just saying. And I think that goes into my score so far for the Dreamscape and cinematography. There were some good elements, but also some elements that were just kind of like meh. And maybe that might have been budget stuff. Who knows? Let's see. Paula's going with a 4. Let's see. And Julie says we're at 18 likes. Let's get to 20. Absolutely. Thank you. And if you haven't hit the like button, please do. It helps us out. Okay. Um, Troy saying, "What if I have the uncut version?" That's what I say. Well, we're just scoring we're scoring what was released in theaters and put on home video and stuff like that, because that's the only fair way to do it. Let's see. So Julie's going with a 3.5. Okay, Julie, we're going to put you down officially for 3.5. Again, if you guys are a channel member at our Movie Fanatics level or higher, we're going to actually count your scores to be part of the official tonight. So let us know what you think. And Eric, this is a great point. Stephen Hopkins directed this well for the time he was given. I agree with that. He did the best that he could. And Eric saying that's what got him the job directing Predator 2, which is absolutely underrated. A great film. So good one. All right. Let's spin the wheel and see what we get for our third category. And Rachel, you'll be starting off the conversation for this one. Let's see what we get. God. All right. This is just a talking point. This will not be a scored category for you guys in the chat. Let us know what you think of it as well. We can't get to everyone's comment, but we try to as much. Okay. Rachel, what do you think is the worst scene in this film?
Don't think it's that good. There were really no scenes that really like offended me. Like there was nothing that made
Okay.
me go, "Oh my god, this is the worst. This is terrible." It was more that there were some scenes that were just not as effective as others. So I think if I was going to go with the worst scene, I might go with Mark's dream, because I really don't think that was great, especially considering some of the scenes we'd already seen. Even the road warrior death was better than this one. I mean, he's literally slicing a paper like cutout. Like, what is that? Like I said, like mob boss Freddy just does not do it for me. And then my favorite line in the whole movie, because of the way it's delivered: "Time to die, you Scarface limp dick." Like, what was that? What?
Right.
So I think that one, because like I said, there were no scenes in this movie that were like fully like, you have some of the movies, like I think when we were doing the Halloween franchise, there was easy to just pick like, it's absolutely this scene, this is the worst scene. This one I think was just kind of such an average film that there was nothing that really stood out. But no, that paper scene with Penguin Boss Freddy and slow motion talking and slicing a paper cutout, just no, I'm gonna go with that one.
I like how you call him the Penguin. He's supposed to be Super Freddy or whatever. It's like
Like you said, Tim Burton, he was giving me serious Penguin vibes, man. I'm like, where's
wow.
Batman?
That is the first time I've heard it like that. Now every time I see it, I'm gonna think of that. That's
They're gonna
crazy.
see.
That's awesome. The first time I saw that, I was I was just like more powerful than a local madman. I'm like, what are we doing? Why? Why are we going down this road? This is Freddy
Just give him
Krueger.
a cigar and a semi-automatic, and there you go, you're done.
Oh my god. Yeah, it was horrible. All right.
Yeah.
So the worst scene to me, um,
Hmm.
okay, so let me just say this. I agree with you. I think Mark's death. All right, you know what? Okay, I'm gonna rant on it. You know why? Because when Mark first goes into the dreamscape, or when he's having the nightmare, or however you want to look at it, Freddy, there's this scene. I should have had it for a clip. See, that's I, I will use it for a future clip. I've got some other new clips for tonight, but we'll see if we get to those. But when Freddy first appears, right, he does this with his arms, and you hear this music go, "Dun," and it's kind of like, what, dude? You are not Frank Sinatra. Come on, bro. You're supposed to be the dream demon of Elm Street. Come on, what are we doing? And then he gets on a skateboard. Why? Why? And I just
And
think
10.
I mean, just some of the choices were just kinda like it was just so crazy, and so then when he kills Mark and he's hacking him up, and I'm like, "Alright," I'm not really cool with that, but then he's just hacking at his surroundings, so I guess he's bringing the house down, so to speak, and you know what's funny? When Alice, wakes up and looks over and she sees, like, stuff is falling over and she I was like, "Where is he at?" I didn't even see him. I just saw stuff like thrown in the corner like a hoarder or something. So I just think that the whole sequence, like, although it was kind of creative, the whole comic book thing, I just don't think it really worked. There were a couple parts about it that was kind of like, okay, this could kind of be cool, but it just didn't work. And that dream, that nightmare, actually, it's funny because now I remember when we did Elm Street 5 as part of our review series, which was a long time ago. I think me and Kill talked about this nightmare quite a bit because I think this was kind of the true turning point, when we just started to head into Looney Tuneville. Because when Freddy first shows up in that nightmare, he puts his arms up, dun, and it's a comical, dun, it's not like a horror sound, and I'm just like, why are we doing this? Okay. Anyways, let's let's see what the chat says. Eric says worst is too harsh, but Yvonne on the diving board is pretty lame. The longest dive ever. She's so scared and then becomes a professional diver right before the splash. That's true too. Like the sea,
Yeah.
yeah. That when the claw comes up, it looked bad
Hmm.
back then too. It
Yeah.
did. Even as a kid, I was like, this is bad. We'll get to Yvonne. Hopefully, we'll see. I got some interesting things to say as far as she's concerned too. Let's see. Scott said Super Freddy was just no. That's right.
You, Scott, 100%. Just, yeah, it was bad. It was so bad.
Yeah. Eric saying Super Freddy is fine. It fits Mark's love for comics. That's true. Lame, but fine. It's Freddy on a skateboard. That's stupid, right? And and he's on the skateboard for like 15 seconds. It's like they really held that moment, And I'm just like, God, I'm just like, man, I hope Robert's check was big enough for this, because
No.
it's like, please, good Lord. Scott saying Mark's death could have been one of the best, most creative kills scenes in the series, and you blew it. That's right. That's right. Willis says, I still want a Super Freddy figure. Yeah. Oh man. Can you
Good.
imagine? There must have been some of those somewhere.
Well, definitely. I mean, all of the merchandise that was released around these films and everything that was done, and someone somewhere has made that statue. We'll just have to find it for
We'd
Willis.
have to find it. That's right. No doubt. No doubt at all. Okay. All right. Let's go to let's
That
go
was
to
fun.
our next category. Oh my god. Okay. Oh, oh, oh,
Oh,
oh. Oh, the kill.
Nice.
All right, the kill scenes.
Oh
So
dear.
when we're talking about the kills, we're talking about, how they're set up, how they're executed. We're talking about, um, the impact and all that different type of stuff. So when you think about the kills in this movie, Rachel, what do you think and what's the score you want to give?
Look, I don't think they're that great. Again, I feel
Mhm.
like we're like the kills in like okay, I always like the first movie obviously is just so untouchable because it's so good. But you think
Mhm.
about the kills in that movie and how impactful they are. Like you think of Tina on the roof and Glenn sinking into his bed, and even Dream Warriors has one of my favorite with the arteries and all of
Yeah.
that. This one, I don't know. It feels like I mean, I know that we're at the fifth movie, so we have to start trying some new things. Otherwise, the audience starts to get bored. But
Right.
I feel like a lot of this movie was like good in concept, not great in execution. Like we were just
Yes.
talking about the comic book scene. I even think some of the other scenes were interesting in concept. Like the Road Warrior scene was interesting in concept. It wasn't working for me because I didn't think it was done that well. And then
Mhm.
halfway through the scene, it's like they take you out of the dream, but then put you back into the dream. Like he stops driving the truck, he gets on
Yeah.
the bike, but then you're like, oh shit, we're still in the dream, but he's not
Yeah.
actually on the bike. I also thought Greta's death was another one that was really interesting in concept, but ended up looking really stupid. And again, you mentioned Beetlejuice. I was getting full Beetlejuice vibes from that scene. I half
Yes.
expected them to all jump up and start going, Deo,
Yeah, exactly.
like it really felt like that. And the idea of like this girl who has eating problems and has this harsh mother who's always going on about her body being
Yep.
force fed her own body, yeah, definitely an interesting concept, but something about the claymation and the big puffy cheeks that made it look like the Elephant Man and all of that was
Yes.
it was just not working for me. So I think for this film, I'm going to go with a 3 because I think the creativity was there, but it can't go higher because I think the execution was just not that great. And that may have had something to do with the ratings. Like you said, they had to cut certain things out and tone
Mhm.
certain things down. But I just feel that, like, on paper, like if you read like the synopsis for this, you'd think, oh, these kills sound really cool. But then you
Yep.
see them and it's like, yeah, not so much. So I think a 3 for me for this one. What about you?
Well, I think that it's interesting, and you bring up Greta's kill, which was the first one of the first things that came into my mind. We've already talked about Mark and
Mm,
just kind of the disappointment with that. And let me also, this is what's great about this because you can go into a rant and you don't even know you're about to do it. But the other thing about Mark too was he survived his first time going into the
good.
dreamscape. So
Mm,
I'm thinking, okay, this is kind of cool. People aren't just getting off easily.
mhm.
And he was kind of an interesting character in a way. I mean, the actor hated the clothes he had to wear, which I agree was
Oh,
just
okay. Yeah,
absolute.
no, it was pretty bad.
Even for, the time period, it was like, "That's just horrible. You're doing my man wrong." But he survived the first time of being in the nightmare sequence. So I'm thinking, "Okay, so we're kinda building him up so that his next nightmare," which of course we thought was lame. But
Mm,
Greta, the thing about Greta and that she was a great character in the sense of what she was dealing with her mother and the eating disorders. The thing that this film did well was some of the things that they was trying to talk about, whether it's talking about young motherhood, abortion, or obviously eating disorders and so forth. So I think it was ambitious in that sense, and I applaud it for doing that. This is a slasher film, you know what I'm saying, and it's trying to tackle these things, but I think that it was out of its depth. It was reaching too far, and Greta's kill specifically, what messed it up for me the most?
mm.
It wasn't even the claymation stuff. It wasn't even the shout out to Beetlejuice. It was Freddy. Can you believe that? It was Freddie because and I want people to understand this because I'm sure we have some folks watching that might be newer. Um, I love the Nightmare franchise and I love Freddy and I love Robert. I grew up on this stuff. So I've seen these movies my whole life. But when Greta gets, kind of, locked into the chair and Freddy comes out with that chef's hat, and I'm not talking about Gordon Ramsay style. I'm talking about like from the Muppets. And I'm like, what are we? And he's like, bon appetit, bitch. It is I'm just I mean, don't get me wrong. They were in a tough place. I've talked about this in multiple streams and also some of my videos that I put out recently, especially the Nightmare 4, why you hate the Nightmare 4 film. Check that out if you haven't. At this point, Freddy was so popular and Freddy's Nightmares was on TV. Freddy was on MTV. Freddy had a 1-800 number, or 1-900 number, whatever. And so it's almost like the character and the franchise was a victim of its own success.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, so I want to paint that picture and I understand that, but I just have to grade it on what I see. And when Freddy was just throwing quips after quips and cracks after cracks in that scene, it took away the horror of what was happening to her. You know what I'm saying? With the whole idea of the eating disorders and her mother always on her ass about what you eat, how you look, your hair, the bags under your eyes. And I just think that with this kill and a few others, I think if they had leaned a little bit more into the horror and grounded it a little bit more, I think it would have made the film better, but I think it also would have stood the test of time better, because we're talking about a film that's, whatever, 40 years old, 30 something, 40 years old, and I just don't think it stands the test of time. So with the kills, I was a bit disappointed. I agree with you. I'm going to go with a 3. I think some were good setups, but not great payoffs, and then some were vice versa. So all right, let's get to the chat and see what we got. Julie is coming in also with a 3. So, Julie, we're going to put you down officially as a 3 for the scoring. Thank you so much for giving a score. And also, thank you so much for being a channel member. We really appreciate that. Paul is going with a 3. Eric is saying 3.5. Greta's was creative. Mark's was lame, but Dan was great. Greta was creative. If Amanda counts as a kill at the end with Freddy's hand ripping out of her chest is decent. Yeah, that's an interesting
Thank you.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did like the ending. That was kind of it. The thematic element of it, him trying to, get out of Amanda again. There was some good stuff there. Scott's going with a 3. All right. Let's see. And we've got Chris in the house. What's going on, Chris? Welcome to the chat. Hope you're enjoying the conversation. We got David in the house. What's up, man? Hollywood guy saying I wasn't a fan of the kills. Okay. All right. Let's see. And I think we've got everyone. Okay. All right. Let's go to our next category. Let's see what we get here. All right. Interesting. All right. The directing. Okay, when we talk about Stephen Hopkins, again, he came in with a lot of interesting ideas, and you can see that in what he brought. If you've never seen um Never Sleep Again, the Elm Street documentary, you've got to see that. It's fantastic.
So good. It is
It
so good. Definitely
man,
watch it. Mm.
I can't tell you how many times I've watched it. I've
Oh,
watched
I
it
love it.
easily over a dozen times, probably 3 times that amount. Because sometimes I just want to put it on and you're just reliving this whole
Mm-hmm.
franchise. But he talked about how he wanted to bring that gothic feel
Mm.
to the franchise and to the dreamscape and so forth. So he was very ambitious. Again, MPAA and also budget stuff might have been thinking other thoughts, but he did have a good mindset. I love the stuff with the asylum. I love the stuff at the end when even Yvonne and I think Alice too, when they were walking up to the asylum, it just looked so
Mm-hmm.
so 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 spooky and creepy. That was great stuff. Um, and I think in general he did the best he could. I really I appreciate. See, this is interesting, and again, we're not really comparing, but I just want to say this. Whereas Rennie Harlan, who's a great visual director himself, came into 4 and just boom, balls to the walls. Let's just do this. This is the MTV nightmare, blah blah blah. And there were great things in it, but there were also some things that were missing from it. And I think Steven tried to come in and kind of root the franchise again, grounded a little bit with the themes in this film. So I got to give him credit for that. I'm gonna go with a I'm gonna go with a 3.5. I'm gonna go with a 3.5. I appreciate the effort that he put into the film. How about you, Rachel?
Look, I'm with you. I think again we keep talking about it, but it's because they were so effective. Those asylum scenes are
Yeah.
so well done, and I actually thought the opening dream sequence was quite well done too.
Hmm.
It's a very uncomfortable topic, obviously, how Freddy's birth came about, but I thought that they did. I thought he did well with implying what was going out on without going into full on, essay, which we don't need to see. So I
Good
thought that
point.
was very well done. But I do agree with someone said earlier in the chat that the real world scenes were a bit flat. And I do agree with that. I think he was
Hmm.
doing his best work when he was doing the Dreamscape, when he was doing the Asylum. I also don't
Hmm.
think he got the best performance out of some of his actors. Like Lisa Wilcox, I thought was fine. But some of the others, it was like, okay, who is directing you? Because some of this dialogue is so bad and just not going in a great direction.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'm with you. I think 3.5 is a fair score because yeah, I do think that some parts were really effective, but I do think that other parts were maybe not as good. And yeah, I do wish that he'd gotten a slightly better performance out of a lot of the actors.
Hmm.
Because yeah, some of that was just not working for me.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. Well, and of course we might get to that. We'll see if we get to characters, but when you said that, it made me think of this group, and not that I want to go into it too much because again, it might be a category, but that's such an important part of the Elm Street movies
Yes.
because everything is based upon the nightmares, right?
Mm-hmm.
But before we get to the nightmares, we got to know the person, right? We got to know the person and care about them as we do in any horror film, but we also have to see what kind of makes them tick because that's what Freddy works on in the nightmares. So I agree with you. He could have done a little bit better with that. Okay. Scott saying 3.5 is fair for the directing. Let's see. Danielle's going with a 3.5. They did stay on the rails of the Freddy continuity in terms of story, but at this point, Freddy was becoming more of a joke than a terror. Absolutely, no doubt. Let's see. And we got critic Chris in the chat. Welcome to the chat. Hope you're enjoying the conversation. Hope you're enjoying the conversation and welcome. Um, he said, just entered hello. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see. Who else? Um, that's true. Yeah, Nightmare 3 was a good blend of the two. No doubt about that. Okay. And I don't think I see Julie, did you have a score that you put in here as well? I'm not sure if Troy's here either. I just want to
That
make sure
Julie's put one in. I haven't seen
okay.
one from her
All
yet.
right. Okay. And hey, happy early birthday to Paula. All
Happy
right.
birthday.
On Friday. Very cool. All right. And yeah, Julie's going with
There
a
we go. 3.
3. Okay, so we're gonna put you down for a 3. Thank you so much for giving us that. Nope, no worries at all. No worries at all. Okay, let's go to our next category. Let's see what we get. There's a couple that I'm just praying that the wheel will pick. Ooh, ooh. All right. Now, and Rachel, you're going to start off leading this conversation. What do you think of Alice Johnson in this film as the final girl? What's the score you want to give her?
Alice, like I thought that, we talked about when we did number 4 about how she started out quite meek and quiet and leveled up. And it seems like she's still going with that sort of personality. She and her
Hmm.
boyfriend are planning to go overseas and they seem pretty happy. And when she does find out that she's pregnant, she seems to take that news quite well. And I do like that she's kind of slowly figuring everything out. That being said, and I think this is more a product of the film itself, I don't feel like she had as much to do in this film. Like, the last film, like she was really trying to figure out where Freddy was from. She was figuring out how to use the powers that she inherited from Kristen. And she was,
Hmm.
we had that whole Rambo leveling up scene, which, we said didn't quite work, but at least still added to her character. Whereas this
Right.
one, it seemed more like she was kind of just moving through the movie. But again, I think it was just the premise of the movie. There wasn't a lot for her to actually do. Like, she was finding out about her friends' deaths. A lot of the time it was after the fact or while they were happening. So she didn't really have the chance to try and rescue them until, right at the end with a Bond, where she does level up a little bit and
Yeah.
all of that. So I think because this one didn't give her as much to do, I'm going to give her, I think, a 3.5. I think she is decent, but I think the story just didn't allow her to really be like a kick-ass final girl in this one. But I think that, like, the characterization that we do get is still pretty solid. And
Hmm.
I still think that Lisa Wilcox does a very good job in making her quite likable and endearing. And, you do
Yeah.
root for her in this one, regardless. So 3.5 for Alice in this one.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I think first of all, and when we talk about this, and Eric is always my good buddy Eric is always reminding everyone, which is so true. I mean, Alice is one of those final girls that has, really stood out, battling Freddy twice and
Mm,
winning, and doing it in different ways and so forth. So I think that she definitely is underrated, not only in the Elm Street franchise, but in horror in general. So
mm.
again, I want to give some love to Lisa Wilcox, again, just who's very, very cool. Um, and I think in this film, like you said, it was a continuation of this badassery that started near the end of four, which was cool to see. It was cool
Yeah,
to actually see a continuation of a character. Whereas with Nancy, they skipped her in two, so there was that break in the chain, which was unfortunate. So with this, it was really cool to see that, which you didn't get a lot of in horror films, especially in the big
true.
three.
Very true. Mm.
Yeah. And I think that her character in general is such a great character. You really, she's interesting. She's got a lot of things going on, and even after four, dealing with, life as a young person and her father. I thought one of the things I mentioned when we talked about the film in our review stream, deep dive discussion, is I thought that there was a lot of heart in that relationship with her father, and I thought that that was
I
cool,
agree. Yes.
and it was a nice callback to 4, and they
Mm.
didn't beat us over the head with it, with the fact
Yes.
that he's a recovering alcoholic, and I thought that it was done really well, and it was very subtle but powerful. So that's part of her journey as a character, dealing with a father that's going through that and kind of taking care of him, as he said,
Yes.
ever since, and so that was cool. But I agree with you, and I'm really, it's cool that you kind of brought this up. It felt like for being the final girl that they didn't give her as much to do in a way, and perhaps that's because of this whole idea of her being pregnant and her baby being the middleman, so to speak, between her and Freddie, right? Um, so I kind of wish that she could have had more to do, because she was totally badass. I mean, she was going, look, she didn't care that it was Freddie. She was just going after him. Like when she, come on, Krueger, you scared piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. I was like, wow, Lisa, you go, girl. So, there was a lot of badass moments, but I think overall from A to Z, from the beginning of the film to the end, they didn't always hit high, with her. The finale, hopefully we'll get more into that. The finale was interesting. Um, she was great, but it left a little bit to be desired for me. So with all that being said, I think I'm going to also go with a 3.5 for Alice. I do think that she overall is just an awesome final girl, very underrated, and this movie had some great moments for her, but also some moments where she was kind of in the passenger seat. But it is what it is. Okay. Let's see. Russell's going with a 3.5. Julie saying, I agree with a 3.5. Okay, Julie. So we're going to put you down officially in the score. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Let's see. Who else? Scott's going with a 3.5. I like the character, but she didn't have much to work with when it comes to storytelling. Yep. Let's see. And Danielle saying, I keep saying Freddie leaves no survivors behind, but he does allow some to live long enough to spread the fear of Freddie. Yeah, absolutely.
To
He
keep a
does.
legend going, as we see in Freddy versus Jason. When you let the legend die, Freddy dies. So yes, you always
Right.
have to have that survivor.
Yep. That is true. Okay, let's go to our next category. So we've got 5 down. We've got 5 to go.
5 to
Let's see
go.
what the wheel will pick. It's so interesting. I think Final Girl was a great category for this film. Ooh.
Ah.
Ooh. Okay.
Mm.
All right. So, hey, and this wheel is random. I'm not picking it. So when we talk about the it factor, we're talking about the overall entertainment of the film, the enjoyment that you have watching this film, the rewatchability, you know what I'm saying, how it stands out. So when we take all of that into account for the it factor, Rachel, what do you think about Elm Street 5 and what's the score you want to give it?
Yeah, this one doesn't have quite the it factor that some of the others definitely have for me. I've actually only seen this one like a few times. It's probably one of my least watched of the sequels.
Mm,
And then when I was watching it last night, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I didn't remember this bit. I didn't remember this bit. So there was a lot that hadn't stuck. Whereas I remember like when I saw the first one or I saw the third one on New Nightmare, there were scenes that just stuck with me for
right.
like days afterwards. That being said, this one still has enough in it to keep me watching. You know, I don't think it's one of the worst of the sequels. We could talk about which ones I think are much worse than this one, but I really liked the gothic feel. Like we've talked about that. That really worked for me, especially because I'm definitely a gothic girly. Like I love vampires and Dracula and all of that sort of stuff. So anytime you give me like a gothic mansion and like some sort of weird religious creepy stuff, I'm like, this works.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I didn't think the story was that great, and we can talk about that more if we get to that topic. And like we've said before, the juxtaposition between the nightmare scenes and the real life scenes just yeah, the real life scenes were very flat. Like when you watch the first movie and you're with like Nancy in the real world, you're still just as gripped as you are when you're in the dream world. Whereas with
Right.
this one, I found myself kind of tuning in and out a little bit. So
Hmm.
I think for this one, I'm going to go with a 2. There's still some stuff that keeps me in, but I don't think it's one of the best sequels. And overall, a little bit to do with like Freddy's characterization, the other characterization, the dreamscapes not being that great, just doesn't work as much for me. So 2 for it factor for this one.
Okay, all right. For me, this is a difficult category, right? Because for me, anyways, because when I think about this film, I'm so conflicted, and I said this at the beginning of this stream, because there's some elements in it that are so good, or I should say, very, very good, and then there's some elements where, again, and I've talked about this anytime I talk about the Elm Street franchise. This look, we were in the vehicle, strapped in with a seatbelt, heading to Looney Tuneville. That's where we were going, and I'm just not a fan of that aspect of it. And it's funny because some people might say, well, okay, you're looking at it through the lens of an adult now versus when you were a kid. But even as a kid, I can remember watching this film and kind of feeling like the gas in the tank was leaving. Is like getting super low. It was kind of like, okay, all right. I mean, again, I can enjoy it for what it is. It's a Freddy film, so I could enjoy it that way. But I think for it factor, I'm gonna go with a 2.5. It almost gets to a 3, but the comedic stuff that goes on in it and some of the weird pivots, it just brings it down for me. And I agree with you. This is definitely one of the films in the franchise that I don't revisit that much. Over the years, I've seen this one just a handful of times, and usually it's been for a reason, whether it's been a live stream or something like this. So that tells me all I need to know for me personally, as far as what the it factor is. Okay, let's see. What do we have? Julie, Julie says
Julie's like,
2. I'm sorry.
Julie looks so guilty.
It's too funny. It's okay. It's okay. Let's see. Scott saying it's a 2 for me. It has moments, but fairly forgettable entry in the series. Let's see. Paula's going with a 5.
Wow, Paula really likes this one.
Wow, that's as high as it can get. Okay. We got Troy. Okay, so Troy's back with us. So we're gonna get Troy's score in here. We got a 3 officially. We're gonna put that down for a score for the it factor. Thank you, thank you. And Chris saying 5 seemed like they were running out of great ideas, ideal deaths of characters. Yeah, they were definitely running out of ideas. That's
Oh,
very
yeah.
true.
Mhm.
No doubt. Russell's going with a 3. Let's see. And hey, we got Quentin in the house. What's going on, Quentin? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. And we got Mr. Rick celebrating a channel anniversary, 4 months.
Yay!
All right. Very cool. Welcome. Saying, hope I didn't miss much. I really enjoyed 3. 4 had a special place in my heart, but 5 just don't know. But this one was too campy. Yeah,
I get it. Yeah. We're
I get it.
definitely going into cheese territory here. We're
We
not quite at
were
Fly My Pretties Fly, but we're getting there.
no.
I'm sorry. Look, Wicked is out at the moment. Everyone's talking about the Wicked Witch. We've got to drop the Freddy reference.
I know, man. I can't wait till we get to that one. There is going to be
It's
we're going to have confetti and everything cuz I'm telling
Mhm.
you, it's crazy.
If I'm on the panel, I've got a special witch's hat to wear just for that.
You should. Oh my gosh. Okay, we'll have to talk about that. Very
Okay.
cool. But yes, congratulations again, Mr. Rick. We appreciate
Mm.
the support and also being a channel member. And again, if you guys are not a channel member, we'd really appreciate the support. It helps us out to do streams like this as much as we do. Just hit the join button next to the subscribe button. And Julie, if you could put the link in the chat, and let's just do a quick clip for Mr. Rick. Just thanking him for being a channel member and celebrating his channel member anniversary. And you know, Rachel, sometimes when you're feeling really, really happy, you do interesting things. You sing different things. It might look like this.
Are you high? Make the fastest reservation. That's what time to lose. I'm getting more and you will. What are you doing? Are you crazy?
I was watching The Substance there for a minute. And
Yeah.
come on.
Oh man. All right.
Oh, dear.
Very cool. Okay. Let's go to our next category. I was waiting to play that, man. Okay. And again, for you guys, we're going through 10 categories, and let's see where we go to next. All right, so the it factor is gone. Let's see what we have next. Here we go. Ooh. Yeah, I like this. Yeah. These are the categories that I really enjoy so much. Okay, so Rachel, we're gonna start off with you. When we talk about the mythology, and when we talk about mythology, we're talking about how Freddy is portrayed. You know what I'm saying? Like how he's presented, what he does, kind of the through lines of his character, obviously that kind of reach back beforehand, you know, the rules that were set up and so forth. When you think about the mythology presented in Elm Street 5, Rachel, what do you think and what's the score?
I think this is going to sound like a really mixed bag because there are parts of this mythology that I really like, and then there are parts that I think just don't work. So, okay. First of all, I do like that they bring his mother back. I thought that was very cool because that was a thread that was dropped in number 3, and then kind of we didn't hear anything afterwards. Like I said, I thought the opening scene kind of implying what happened to her was very well done. And I thought that, you know, her spirit kind of being the one to come and take Freddy at the end was very cool because, of course, who are you always scared of? No matter how old you are or
Right.
how evil you get, your mother. So, yes, it's definitely, that definitely worked. I also thought the idea of Freddy affecting a baby's dreams while the baby is still in the womb, I thought that was a really interesting concept. And like someone said before, that's why we get these random kind of, you know, dreamscapes come out of nowhere because he's affecting this kid.
Right.
What I didn't really like was this implication that Freddy can somehow come back through Alice's baby. He never quite made that really clear, like how the conception really brought Freddy back. Is it because Alice was the one who banished him? Is it because of this or that? Like, we don't get a clear idea of what's going on there. So I thought that part was really a bit odd. Like I've said before, the Freddy baby is going to live in my nightmares for years because that's honestly the screwed up thing I've ever seen. who designed that thing? That was like when it like moves and it's like running and it's like, oh my god, no, that's horrifying. But I do think that some of the dreams in this don't make sense. Like the first dream that Alice has, or rather the second dream, after she's left graduation and she's
Mhm.
supposed to be going to work. Now, supposedly, she's 4 hours late for work. What was she doing? Did she just drop down in the middle of the street and go to sleep? Is she sleepwalking? Did she physically go to the asylum? Like things like that. I think I found a bit frustrating. But like I said, I thought the idea of Freddy being able to affect a fetus was really interesting. I thought, that dreamscape was really kind of cool. I liked kind of that Alice could talk to her own child within the dreamscape.
Yeah.
And also, by the way, that kid, I recognized him instantly. That is the snotty little kid from Jurassic Park who
Yeah.
is giving Sam Neill a hard time. As soon as I saw him, I'm like, you're the raptor kid. So I did think that was fun. So yeah, so I thought that some of it was fun. I thought some of it wasn't executed that well. And I think, as with a lot of things with this movie, it was a very good idea. It was not that well executed. So I think I'm going to go with a 3 for Mythology because, by
Okay.
this point in the film, you do have to start building Freddy out. You have to start adding new things. But
Mhm.
I'm also kind of a simple girl. I kind of just like Freddy just being the nightmare dude that he is in number 3. So sometimes I'm like, do we really need all of this mythology? So it's like a double-edged sword, It's like you have to
Right.
expand, but then you're always going to get fans who are going to be like, this is what we need to do. But I think
Right.
3 for this one, definitely. What
Okay. All right. Well, I think Freddie has changed a lot in this film.
Yeah.
He just has.
hmm
And big picture, yes, just like you said, I understand why. We totally understand why, because you're making all these damn sequels, and he's become larger than life. It's
hmm
much different. The success, the how do I want to say it? The way success hit Elm Street was totally different than the way it hit Friday and Halloween, right? And that's because Freddy talks, right? And so they leaned into that. They leaned into the charisma Robert has,
hmm
which makes sense. But like you said, that was a double-edged sword. And that's kind of where we started to make him a figure that we were so comfortable with that we weren't afraid anymore. And it became campy and cheesy and so forth and so forth. They had interesting aspects to this mythology that they're building out on Freddy, with Amanda, and I really enjoyed that. I thought that that was some really cool stuff, and again, it tied right into Alice, so that was really neat. But I agree. It's like, okay, so he's trying to be born through the kid. He comes back through the nightmare of the kid. um it just, there's some weird shit going on, man. At the end of the movie, he's inside of Alice and they're like fighting each other, and I'm like, bro, come on, man, you can't be doing this to my girl Lisa Wilcox. I mean, dude, it just was. I'm just like, why? We don't have to do all of this. We don't. If we had cut the cheese at least by 30%, 20% even, this movie overall would have been elevated. Just bring a little bit more of the horror edge. So for me, the mythology, I was not a fan of it. We were totally on that road to Looney Tuneville, to grabbing the broomstick and being the Wicked Witch. I'm giving this a 1.5. I'm giving a 1.5 because this is where, again, I get it. You're stuck. You have to showcase Freddy like this. You have to showcase Robert. But I think if they had pulled back a little bit, kind of like what Dream Warriors did. Dream Warriors is the great blend. He still had a couple of quips and cracks, but there was a horror edge to him. There was a scary edge to him, and his presence had weight in that sense. Again, going back to the Greta death, dude's coming out with a chef hat. I'm thinking, we are not in Hell's Kitchen. What are we doing? So the mythology, to me, I just think that they took Freddy in the wrong direction, and it totally set us up for what came after, and we'll get to that at some point.
Definitely.
And I
All
can't
right,
wait.
so 1.5. Also, big
1.5.
shout out tonight being generous and gifting 5 memberships. Yay.
Yes, welcome to the new members. We definitely
Yeah.
want to try to do something nice like that.
That's awesome.
For all of you guys, thank you for being a part of this. We really appreciate it. And we also got our man Ginger Ninjas in the house.
Hey, Aussie. Yo.
Hope you're doing well. Daniel, I'm gonna start reading their comments. No, I'm just joking. Mythology is a 5. They stayed true to the mythos and added a bit more. I don't know if they stayed true to it,
Yeah.
man. Freddy on a skateboard. Come on,
He is a
man.
baby.
The baby thing was definitely stretching it, but the skateboard stuff,
Yeah.
Super Freddy, Bon Appetit, bitch. I mean, come on, man. It's like we don't have to be that on the nose. That's just my opinion, though. But hey, I'll tell you what. When we get to when we get to Freddy's Dead,
Oh, God.
I'll definitely be piggybacking off of the events of this film, no doubt. And also Mr. Rick saying, I had a really bad day today. Do you think for my 4 months I can get a little Mr. T, please? Well, we can definitely do that. First of all, hope this helps your day a little bit. I really mean that, man. We know that we have so many folks that come to these streams and sometimes may not be doing super great. And we're always hopeful that the community here can help to brighten your day or night. And thank you, Mr. Rick, for being here. And we appreciate you. So let's do this. It's interesting you said Mr. T because I've got 2 Mr. T clips that are new. So I'm gonna play one of them and maybe the older one too, because I think that's the one you're talking about. Let's start with our newest one and then we'll get to the others.
We're gonna crash! We're gonna crash!
Please get him off me! Get him off me!
Sorry, fellas. I lost my head.
There we go. I was waiting to play that. And Mr. Rick, let's also do our old school one. I'm sure that's the one you were referencing. This is a classic of all time. So hopefully this brings a smile to you and everyone else. Here we go.
Image for the moan and the miserable groan from the pain that you felt when I was born.
All right, there we go. Oh man, it just doesn't get old. Okay.
This never gets old.
It just doesn't, man. It just doesn't. Ginger Ninja saying part 5 is a lot of fun. Ooh, okay, man. Interesting. Ginger Ninja, let us know what you have for a score too, man. We're taking official scores from you guys that are channel members at the 2nd and above tier. So thank you so much for being here, man. Danielle saying, yeah, absolutely. It was nice to I deserve a clip for that. No. I'm just glad that we can be able to give some memberships out. Yeah. And Julie, thank you for the reminder. If you want to continue your membership, you have to go to your settings and turn on auto renewal. Yes. Thank you so much for that reminder, Julie. That helps out a lot. Hey, Jason, good to have you here, man. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. You guys are too funny. Eric saying, I enjoy the addition to his backstory with Amanda, what happened to her after Freddy's trial, etc. And I liked him finding a loophole to get to the teens through Jacob. Freddy would use that loophole. That's fair enough. I do think it was creative. I just wish they didn't go down to, just the campy cheesiness. It was just too much.
Cheesy.
Man.
Too cheesy.
Yeah. Julie's coming in officially. Hey, look at that. I agree. 1.5. If it's not been obvious.
Julie's coming out swinging.
I am not a fan of Julie. Woo, coming in with the hotness. Scott with a 1.5. Okay. Eric said he was already goofy and Dream Master. All this one did was add the skateboard. Yeah, and also the dun, it's like, and he took off his hat when he did it, like he's on stage, like it's like, I'm like, why are we doing this to one of the greatest villains of all time?
Just carrying around a boombox for his musical cues. Like,
Yeah.
cue the music, let's go.
Yes, yes. Chris saying, I think Freddy started being goofy in Dream Warriors. Well, the way I the way I look at it, and it's my opinion, this definitely when they started to add the quips in and kind of, I don't know, it was just an elevated type of way he was cracking on people. But I do think they were able to reel it in enough with the horror. To me it's the best balance.
I
But
agree. Yeah.
yeah, that's when he started to open the window, before he climbed out of the house and jumped on a broomstick. That's
No,
is is
well, he jumped
definitely
on the
where,
skateboard first and then skateboarded to the broomstick and then he took off. It's
right?
a whole tapestry.
It is. And Julie's not gonna let that one go. Bon appetit,
Appetit.
bitch. Yep, yep.
Definitely not one of his better lines.
Let me say this too, man. I know we're ranting, but this is for fun, and hopefully you guys are enjoying this. We have a bunch of people here, well, people in and out, but we started this just like Chris said. We started this in Dream Warriors. Welcome to Primetime Bitch, which
Mm,
was Robert improvising, and I think it was a great line, and I think it worked, and it wasn't too cheesy,
mm.
and it just kind of kept going with that. The whole thing, everything's a bitch, 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 and even when he pulled Greta back into the refrigerator on the sign, all it says is "die, bitch."
Yeah,
Is
basic, isn't it?
I mean, if you want some laughs, it works, because you can get a couple of laughs out of it. But I just don't think that they were able to balance out the horror with it enough. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, uh, and Julie's saying, "I hope your day gets better, Mr. Rick." Absolutely, yeah, sending good vibes to Mr. Rick, no doubt. Um, Eric, Eric's on a roll here. He said in Dream Master, he's serving pizzas and being an invisible member of
Yeah,
Cobra Kai.
I'm an
This
invisible
one,
member.
it's true. Uh, Miyagi would have been proud. Yeah, I mean, no, and you know me, Eric. I've said it 1,000 times. Four is the pivot. Four is the absolute pivot, and I think this one just kept going. It's almost like they felt as though we can't turn back at all, which is too bad because we saw what happened further down in the franchise. I won't. Well, actually, we already talked about Freddy versus Jason, but when you talk about New Nightmare, they could have changed the trajectory if they wanted to, and maybe they just felt as though they couldn't. But anyways, yeah, he was serving pizzas, no doubt. All right. Um, Danielle said mythology is a 5. Wow. All right. You guys are something else. Um, Chris saying he was Super Freddy, but he looked more like Shazam. There you go. Oh man.
Freddy, we have Penguin Freddy. What are we going to have next? Tony Hawk Freddy. Got
Uh,
a few different personas in this movie.
gosh, I'm telling you, man. All right. Um, let's see. Ginger Ned, 12 out of 5. Come on, man. We are 1 to 5. Work with me here. Mr. Rick saying, Knight, it's funny how you said nobody's afraid of Freddy anymore. And then in Freddy versus Jason, he tries to make people scared of him again. I like how it worked out that way. Yeah, I think the one thing, and I said this in well, not only our Freddy versus Jason great debate stream, which by the way, if you haven't seen that, check it out, but also in the Why You Hate Freddy versus Jason, I think that they did some really great stuff on the Elm Street side of things. And I think this was kind of a wink and a nod to people saying, hey, people aren't afraid of Freddy anymore. As a matter of fact, when they were trying to get the script together and when they finally settled down on the script, that's what they were talking about is we want Freddy to cause fear in people again. And I think they were able to do that. That's a great example of let's balance this out a little bit better, So yeah, no doubt. And Eric he's ready to go, man. As a final girl, Alice gets a 4, defeated Freddy twice. Unlike Nancy, she didn't fall for any tricks like in Dream Warriors. Heck, even Laurie Strode fell for a dumb trick. Alice didn't. Wow, there you go. Eric is taking shots, but it's true. It's true. Parts unknown. What's going on? Good to have you here. Hope you're doing well. All right, let's get ready to go to our next category. Mr. Beers in the house too. What's going on? Good to see you. Hopefully you're doing well. Good to have you guys here. Oh, and Ginger Ninja did put in his score. He's going with a 3 out of 5 for Mythology. Ooh, okay. There we go. We're going to put you down officially. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate not only you giving the score, but also just the support you've been giving to this community for so long and the channel. Okay. When did I stop fearing Freddy? I know. Started in 4 for me. All right, our next category. Let's see what we get. We've got 3 more to go. Oh no. Oh no.
Oh
Man.
dear.
Oh man. Some of these categories, like I said, what's great about this series, or what I love about this series, is that what I think makes it fair is the randomness of the wheel. Because some films, in other words, some people might think, okay, we know how you're gonna ultimately rank this franchise, like what we did with the Halloween franchise. But the random wheel evens it out quite a bit, because some films may not get those categories that they get a great score for. Maybe they'd get that category that is a bad category for them. So, okay. So for me, I'm going to start this off for characters. I don't connect with them as much as I want to. Okay. And maybe it's because they spent a lot of time on the whole idea of, the baby, Alice's pregnancy, that whole thing, the backstory with Amanda. Maybe they just didn't have enough time to flesh out the characters. But, Mark, he was okay, but nothing special. I think Greta, the Dreamscape, the nightmare sequence for Greta was a standout, but of course it did kind of fall short in some areas, but it was a standout. But yet Greta as a character, I didn't get connected with her as much as I wanted to. They didn't have enough going on with her. Dan, Dan was okay. I mean, it was nice to see him again.
Yeah.
I appreciated that. He was a cool guy, and I liked that part of it, but they didn't do anything with Dan. And then we come to Yvonne. And, I think Yvonne as a character, it was interesting because she was kind of, that really close friend that was through a lot of it. But, she also was the character that didn't believe anything. You're crazy. You're crazy. You're crazy. People are dying left and right. And it's weird. And I know it's a movie and she has to be, someone's got to be that type of character that gives Alice difficulty in trying to get the troops to rally. But it just didn't feel real. It just didn't. And I love, the idea that you have a friend of Alice, especially working in the hospital. I thought that was really cool, but it just didn't feel real at all. And Yvonne, as much as, and I love the actress, you know what I'm saying, but it just didn't. She was more annoying than anything else, which really upset me. And so for characters, I wasn't invested in. It seemed like from each movie, like 3 to 5, and then of course 6, it seemed like the characters just kind of we're walking down some steps and walking down into lower points is what I mean. So I wasn't a fan overall for the characters because I think it left a lot to be desired. So I'm gonna go with a 2 for characters. All right. How about you, Rachel? What do you think?
Agree with a lot of what you're saying. I think a lot of the characters, I think that they had good bones. There was just no meat on those bones, So we had, like we talked about, we had Greta, who had the overbearing mother, who was, harping on her appearance. And especially, I know in the 80s and the early 90s, that was when the supermodel boom was happening. So anorexia was definitely on the rise, and eating disorders were definitely becoming more trendy. But then, like you said, we didn't really get anything with her. You know, you have a couple of scenes of Mark trying to hit on her, and
Right.
like a couple of scenes at the graduation, and that was it. Like you said, Dan, pretty much. I mean, he was a decent guy in number 4, but they brought him back and did nothing with him except to show that he's still devoted to Alice, which is good. But you know, you
Yes.
need more than that. You've got Mark out here looking like a reject from Beverly Hills 90210 and just doing nothing interesting. And I am so with you about Yvonne. Like and like you said, I understand the role that she's supposed to play. She's supposed to be like the voice of reason, the skeptic. But
Right.
it's like, girl, you live in this town, okay? You live
Right.
near Elm Street. You know that this town is full of weird, mysterious deaths. You know, everything that's happened previously is canon in this universe. And like you said, people are dying. What do you think of
Mhm.
Yvonne just like, you know, just up and died at the ripe old age of 18? Like at
Right.
a certain point in the movie, it really does become, okay, girl, now you've got to like take the blinders off. Like it feels now like you're more in denial than being
Right.
the voice of reason. And like we spoke about with Alice, she's still pretty awesome. The moments that she does get art show that she's still pretty badass, but she doesn't really get that much to do. I will, however, give a little shout out to Alice's dad, who I
Yes.
actually think was one of the more decent characters. I really liked the follow on that, you know, he is now in AA, because we knew he was an alcoholic in the 4th one. And you can see
Mhm.
how he's trying to mend his relationship with his daughter. He's very supportive of her pregnancy. I like that when Dan's parents tried to come in and basically talk her into giving them the baby, he was like, no, 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 you're going to leave my daughter alone. So I thought his character was really good, and I really liked that continuity. But that was pretty much it. He was really the
Yeah.
only character that, like you said, that you connected with. Like you really didn't connect with these kids. Like when you watch the first movie, oh, you love Nancy and you
Yes.
love Tina and you connecting with them, and the Dream Warriors as well. Like you really connect with all the team. But no, I agree, you just don't connect with the characters here. And
Mhm.
like I said, I don't love the acting. I think Mark and Greta in particular are really bad. And so that definitely brings it down for me. So I'm with you. I'm going to go with a 2 for characters, because there are, again, as we keep saying, good concept, bad execution. So
Mhm.
definitely a 2.
Okay, all right, we got a 2, and yeah, and just to piggyback again, and it's Kelly Jo Mentor, but again, as Yvonne, I just they could have done some really cool stuff with her. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I mean? Like it just didn't feel like, and again, maybe it's because they were putting so much time into trying to do these big gothic dreamscapes and the
Mm,
asylum stuff and the backstory stuff.
yeah.
Maybe they were putting their time to other aspects of the film. We know that happens quite a bit with horror movies, especially back in the day.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But I just did not connect with this group.
No.
Um, and it was too bad because I think even 4, although I had some issues with 4, especially how they handled the Dream Warriors themselves, I
Mm-hmm.
did connect with the characters a bit more. You know, there were just moments where I don't know, they just kind of spoke to me better than these characters in this movie. And Ginger Ninja was saying, "Are we counting Freddy as a character?" No, we're not, because Freddy
Freddie
has
has
his
his own category.
yeah,
Yeah.
Freddy has his own category, which is only fair. We want to
Of
talk about
course. Mm-hmm.
yeah, we want to talk about these regular characters first. Okay, so let's see. And Eric's saying the same thing. Underrated characters, Alice's dad. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
He was great. I think that again, it would have been, and again, I understand why, but it would have been nice to see a little bit more between him and Alice. But I do think what they showed, especially when Dan's parents wanted to adopt the baby, even
Mm-hmm.
though Alice's father didn't say much, he had presence, because you could tell he wanted to be protective of his daughter, but he also respected her to allow her to fight that battle in the moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then at the
Mm-hmm.
end, came in as the wingman saying, "Okay, well, I've had enough of this. You don't come into my house and attack my daughter like this, blah blah." So that's what's frustrating about this movie because it has the maturity and the moments like that,
Mm-hmm.
but it just doesn't cross the finish line overall with some of these things. So again, I'm going with the 2, and you went with the 2. Let's see if we have any of these guys in here. Eric's saying characters are 3, they're just there. Okay.
Kind of
Um,
what I felt like too. Mm.
yeah, agreed. Julie says we're at 30 likes. Thank you so much. And if you haven't hit the like button yet, please do. Thank you, Julie. We appreciate you keeping look on that. Troy's coming in with a 3. Outside of Yvonne, the friends are very one note. That's a great way to word it too. I mean, Yvonne, as much as I was frustrated by her, um, she wasn't one note. So
No.
I will give her that. That's actually a great point. And again, I'm a fan of Kelly Jo Minter as an actress. She has a certain type of charisma. I just wish they could have tapped into that more rather than the whole thing of, oh, you're crazy. Elm Street's fantastic. I love Springwood. So, anyways, Paula's going with a 4. Okay, we got JPEG in the house. What's up? Good to see you. Okay. Scott's going with a 2. Mr. Rick is going with a 2.5. Okay, we've got you a 2.5.
Mr. Rick, great icon. And
Yes,
yes, R.I.P. Tony, a
yes,
legend.
no doubt about it. No doubt about it. And Julie is coming in with a 2. Okay, so we've got you down for a 2. And Ginger Ninja saying cheesy characters, fun but not great or well written for the most part. He's going with a 2 out of 5. Okay, so we've got a 2 down from you, man. Good to have you scoring here with us. Let's see. And hey, we got Gritter in the house. Good to see you, man. Hope you're doing well. Channel member anniversary for 2 months. That is awesome, man. The time is flying. Time is flying. We appreciate the support, no doubt about it. And saying, hey, everyone, I give the characters a 3.
A little
Okay,
bit more
so
generous.
we're getting generous. And Gritter, we're going to have you down as well. Let me just put you down again for you guys that are at our second tier and higher. We're going to actually have your scores be official. Okay, so we got a 3 out of 5. Very, very cool. Troy saying, I really like Yvonne. Yes, she's the skeptic, but she has Alice's back the whole way. Seemed like a true
True,
friend. She did.
she
Yeah,
did.
she did. No doubt. No doubt.
And to be fair to her, once she did accept the reality of what was going on, she pretty much threw herself into the mix. She went with Alice
Yes.
to help find Amanda's bones, and so it was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I still will always get frustrated with how long it took her to believe, but at least once she
Right.
did, she fully committed. So points to her for that.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think that that's the thing, is that it took a while for her to get on board. But once she did, it was fun. But it just felt like I just felt like she was the type of character, and the actress herself, Kelly Jo, she has a certain presence that I thought really could have elevated um the movie. And also, when we talk about quote unquote characters, because she was kind of a focus of sorts, because she was with Alice so much, and also the hospital scenes because she worked at the hospital. And so I just wish they could have done a little bit better with her character, and I think it would have helped the movie so much more. It really would have. Okay. All right. Very cool. Let's go to our next category. We got 2 more left.
Two more.
2 more.
Mhm.
Let's see what we get. This could be make or break as far as how this film will be ranked in the franchise. Oh boy. Will it stop? Will it stop? Whew. That was close, man. Well, actually, no, it might have been an advantageous category for it. But best scene, we're just talking about this as a talking point. Rachel, what would you, this is not a scored category, and you guys in the chat let us know what you think. But Rachel, what would you say is the best scene of the film?
Um, it doesn't have a lot of standout scenes for me. If I was going to go, it would probably be either the opening or the closing scenes, because I actually think they were the 2 most effective scenes. So, like I've talked about, I think the opening is really good insofar as showing the implication of what happened to Amanda, the gothic feels, and everything like that. But I actually might go with the closing scene, because it's kind of my favorite type of horror movie closing scene, where it looks like everything is okay, but then, so you've got this really nice shot of like the dad and Alice with the kid, and you're thinking, oh, look, everything's fine. And then we get that slow pan away as we hear the 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. And it's just such a nice, eerie ending that doesn't 100% say, yes, they're completely effed, he's coming back, but more just says, he's still kind of here. And I thought, especially
Mhm.
for this type of movie, which I don't think was that strong in general, I think that was quite a strong ending. So yeah, I think I might actually go with that final scene because it just has that little hint of eeriness, that little promise that Freddy will be back without completely taking away the character's, happy ending. So a little bit of hope
Mhm.
mixed with a little bit of dread. So I think I like
Mm.
that. What about you?
Yeah, I think that ending was pretty cool because you felt if nothing else, you felt invested in Alice and her baby and her father, and you were glad that they survived, and Yvonne. So it's just like, yeah, Yvonne.
Yes. Mm.
I know I'm kind of throwing a little shade, but it's just because I wanted so much more out of the character. But what we got, it wasn't horrible. But like you said, they pan away, and then you just see the jump roping in slow mo, and you're like, ah, boy, there we go. You knew these movies made too much money. We're not stopping. But I would say for me, and you alluded to it, I would say maybe the opening I'd go with. I just think that it was really cool, Alice going into um, the shower thing. I was like, oh man, this is maybe kind of this weird homage to the original with Nancy in the bathtub, and she just kind of goes right into this flashback, and it's just horrific. And then, of course, when you get to that point in the church where she had defeated him before, and how he's resurrected, and again, and a lot of this is on Lisa too. You could just feel that whole like, what the, I beat you already. Come on,
Yes.
man. And
Yeah.
so I think that was really it was a pretty cool opening. So I'd probably say the opening. I'd go with the opening. Okay. All right. Let's see. JPEG going with Greta's scene. Okay. Chris Chris with Freddie Ramsey. So Chris is coming in with I liked that scene when Alice and Jacob are upside down, like they're trying to reach each other. You know, I appreciated the creativity of it, but it also kind of took me out a little bit. You know,
Agree. Yeah.
it really did, and maybe it was also the choice of music because the choice of the music was kind of like a dun, 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 it felt almost like I said, man, we're heading down the block to Bugs Bunny. That's just what we're doing. And although this was creative and visually was interesting, it didn't really work for me too much. Um, but hey, it is what it is. Let's see who else. Who else? Um, And Scott is saying, oh, hold on, that wasn't Scott. That was, I just lost it here. Yeah, it was Scott saying Alice and her dad versus Dan's parents is probably my favorite scene. Yeah, well, the Dan cycle. There you go. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a great moment, with the parents and just how this was all coming to a head. Ginger Ninja saying the motorcycle scene. I love that scene. There you go. There you
Feel like the
go.
Mad Max Fury Road scene.
Yep, there it is. Okay, let's get back to the wheel. We've got two categories left. We've got four choices. And I'm telling you what, this could make or break the score for this film. Looking at what we've got left as possibilities. All right, let's spin the wheel. Cross your fingers if you're a fan of this film. Oh man, it dodged a bullet. It dodged a bullet. Atmosphere. What do you think, Rachel, when we talk about the atmosphere of this film? What would you say about it, and what's the score you want to give it?
I think that some parts of this film are really, really good. Again, we're going to come back to the asylum scenes. So creepy, so
Mhm,
effective. I really felt the atmosphere and the gothic vibes in those scenes. However, outside of those scenes, I don't think this film has that much atmosphere. Like, again, if you look at like number one or the third one or even New Nightmare, there's like this air of dread that hangs over the film. Like, you can always feel Freddy pressing in. I don't
mm,
feel that here. In here, if I'm not in the dreamscape or, we're not actually interacting with him, I almost kind of forget that Freddy is supposed to be in this movie. Like he just doesn't have that eeriness that the others do. But
Hmm.
that being said, because the gothic vibes are so good, I will, give a slightly higher rating than I might, because yeah, I just think those were done so effectively. But it's just such a pity that they couldn't translate that to the rest of the film. It's a pity that,
Hmm.
like, when you see this film, and I've noticed we've done this a lot over this debate, we've talked a lot about how some parts are really good and some parts are not. It's such an uneven like film. So I'm going to go with 2.5 for atmosphere, because I do think that those asylum scenes and those gothic scenes work really, really well. However, I don't think a lot of the other dreamscapes work that well. Like you said, the Greta one is too cheesy, the Mark one is
Hmm.
too cheesy, and that just kind of takes you out of the atmosphere. And like I said, I don't feel Freddy's presence as much in this film. And that is
Hmm.
such a big factor for a nightmare film, is you want to feel that Freddy is always, that he could always just come out of nowhere. But I just don't feel it with this film, which is kind of weird, considering he actually pops up out of nowhere a lot more in this film than he does in other films. But
Right.
yeah, just not feeling it. So 2.5 for atmosphere, I reckon. What about you?
Okay, 2.5. For me, I think that again, similar to what you said, we had great moments with the asylum and this gothic um, paint job, that they put on this film. And I think it was overall pretty effective. But and you said it perfectly, when we're not dealing with those scenes and it's just everyday life, I just don't feel I don't feel like we're even on Elm Street.
True.
Like if you
Mm-hmm.
look at, one and two, even four, to some degree, at least a bit more than five, you felt a sense of dread in this
Mm-hmm.
town.
Yeah.
Here's one thing that they'll tell you. Like for instance, in the original, and I know the original, so many people love it. I'm not necessarily comparing it, but I'm just giving you a sense of this. When Nancy is when they're walking on the street, when they're walking to school,
Mm-hmm.
when she's going to the jail, it's like these are moments that where the atmosphere seems to stay consistent
Yeah.
um with the terror that you get in the nightmares and so forth. So I agree with you. I think the atmosphere was good at the asylum, the flashback stuff, and obviously the gothic feel that it brought. But other than that, it just fell apart. So I think overall with the atmosphere, I agree. I'm going to go with a 2.5. I'm going to go with a 2.5. Okay, let's see what we've got going on in the chat. Parts Unknown is going with a 4 out of 5. Chris saying the Asylum Goth Tone made it look the darkest. 2.5, I think, is the score. Russell is going with a 3. Paul is going with a 5 for every
Really
category.
like this
Wow.
one.
Wow. Okay. Scott saying asylum scenes were great, but most everything else falls flat in terms of atmosphere. The asylum scenes were so good in that regard, so I'll give it a 3. Okay. Ginger Ninja saying it's tough because it gets compared to previous films, but I really enjoyed the Anything Could Be a Dream. It's a surreal feeling. So he's going with a 3 out of 5. Okay, man. So we're going to put you down officially with a 3. Let's see. Troy is coming in saying, agree with a lot of what Rachel's saying, but I've got a 3.5.
Good,
Wow.
more than I did. All right.
Wow. All right. That's saving this category here. Let's see what else. Um, and I think Gritter is coming in with a 4.
Oh, another fan of
Wow.
this movie.
Wow, you
You
guys are
always have those outliers, though. I've noticed, like,
yeah,
even during the Halloween one, when we were doing movies that were a little bit further down, you'd have a few people like giving Resurrection like a 5, in certain categories. And that's what
right.
I think is so much fun about these. And like you said, so great about the randomness of the wheel is you really get to see
Yeah,
everyone's how they felt about this film and how different films can hit differently for different people. And everyone's
right.
so respectful here, so you can share your opinion without fear of being attacked by an angry internet mob. It's fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah. And again, once we get to the ranking of the franchise,
Mm-hmm.
just like with the Halloween ranking, there was at least, if I remember correctly, at least 4 spots that was absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
But it was based upon the scores, you know what I'm saying? So it was fun to rank the franchise that way where you
Mhm.
kind of take your bias out of it a little bit because it's not just one person that is scoring it. You know, we're doing this as a channel and a community. So that's why I really like this. Okay, so let's go to our next category. We've got one category left, Rachel, and
Oh.
I'm telling you, man, this film, I just want to say this. I usually don't do this, but I feel strongly about this film for a lot of reasons, as you guys can tell, because we've done a lot of discussion and I've done a lot of rants. When you've got the possibility of the makeup, the story, and Freddy himself, at least for me, this could go on both sides of the spectrum. So it's going to be interesting to see what we get for the last category. All right, let's spin the wheel. Here we go.
Go.
Oh man. Oh baby, it's happening, bro. It's happening. Wow. 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 Okay. I need to get myself, I need to compose myself. Rachel, I'm going to start with you. When we talk about the makeup, the way Freddy looks in this film, what are your thoughts? And 1 to 5, 5 being the best, meaning that it's a masterpiece. Okay, for you guys have been throwing out fives in the chat, it's a masterpiece. And 1 being bad. What's the score that you want to give it?
Don't like Freddy's makeup in this movie, okay? I think we're starting to get a little bit lazy. And this is going to sound really weird, but the whole time I just kept thinking, I'm really sorry, but the makeup makes his face look like it's too small for his head. I just kept thinking that the whole movie. I was like, why does your face look so small? What? And I think because we have like so many iterations of Freddy, like you said, we've got Chef Freddy, we've got Skateboard Freddy, we've got Road Warrior for Freddy, we've got Mob
Penguin
Boss
Freddy.
Freddy, we've got Penguin Freddy. It's just not working. And I don't know if the makeup artist for this one has been on other movies, but no, he did not, to me, he just did not look that scary. So I'm going to go with a 1.5 for this one. Like I said, small face, big head, baby Freddy is just the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my entire life. I actually found Freddy more intimidating in this one when we saw Robert Englund as himself. I actually found him scarier. The few flashes we saw of him in the mob scene, and I was like, oh no, that's bad. Because,
Yeah.
the rest of the time I was like, what is happening? He just looks like he's got some bad sunburn in this one. It's not working for me. So, yeah, sorry, Freddy. 1.5 for your tiny little face.
Oh man. Okay, for you guys in the chat, let's start getting those scores in. This is our last category. Okay. Yeah. For me, it looks horrible. Look, let me just start it off there. It looks horrible. I know why. Again, it's been, well said at this point. Robert was tired of spending 80 years getting into this makeup and out of the makeup.
Which is fair enough.
It's fair. It's fair. He even at this point he was a legend, an icon, right? As an actor, especially in horror. But they would have the pieces of the makeup would be like in full parts. You know what I'm saying? Instead of piece by piece by piece like
Yeah.
they did in the other 4 movies. It just looks bad. They did this thing where they made his nose kind of a little bit more hooked. They even said, and check this out too. And again, this is out there for information in Never Sleep Again. They said they wanted to make him look more aged and haggard. And I'm thinking, why? Why do we want to do that? He
It's
looked
just unnecessary.
totally unnecessary. Why do we care how old friggin' Freddy is? He's a
Mhm.
dream demon. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It can be
it's like
however you look. And it's not like
yeah.
it was 20 years between the sequels and we're like, oh, Freddy's gotten old, No, it's only been like 6 years since the first movie came out.
Great point. And not only that, but we're talking about what, maybe a year after 4.
Exactly. So
Okay,
what? He's aged 200 years in that
right.
1 year he was in hell. Yeah,
So
it's not
yeah,
good.
so why are we even worried about that as a concept for
Hmm.
Freddy Krueger? And and I just think it made him look silly in certain scenes. And you know what? And I'm going to talk about this as a content creator. When I was coming up with images for this film, even for the thumbnail, there was so many stupid ass pictures of Freddy from the Dream Child. It was pissing me off. One of the only scenes, and there was just a couple in the in the opening when he came back and he was behind Alice and saying, but I found the key. And when Amanda came through the door and we'll see, bitch, again with the bitch, he just overused that way too much. But he looked good
Does.
in the opening, right there. He looked good throughout that. And also in the scene where when Yvonne is getting into the room where Amanda's spirit is, he looked pretty good. Actually, it's the image I have for the thumbnail. He's standing in this corridor, this hallway, and going after Alice. Those are the only two moments he looks good in a 95-minute movie. And it's ridiculous. You're one of the big three. Show some respect on this character. He looks horrible, and with Robert, kind of doing the showman thing and stuff like that, it almost makes it look worse. Like in the finale when he's got Jacob and he's talking to him, come on, kid, let me show you some tricks, and he's like, and it's like it look. I should have gotten a couple pictures ready for this, but I don't want to keep ragging on it. Um, it just looks bad. I'm gonna also go with a 1.5. I was tempted to go with a 1, but yeah, I'll go with a 1.5, but he looks absolutely horrible in this film. I was just like, he looked so good in 3 and 4. 3 and 4 was the peak look. Like when you see a lot of merchandise for Freddy, or at least back in the day, that's the look that he had. That look that he had in 3 and 4. And I'm just so shocked. And I know, Robert didn't want to spend a lot of time in the makeup, but I'm just so shocked that they downgraded so much.
So
It's just
much. Yeah.
such a big downgrade. So, anyways,
Hmm.
I'm going with a 1.5. Let's see what these guys in the chat said as we complete the 10th category. Um, wow. Troy saying a 2, only because it's even worse than the next one.
Oh,
Well, wow,
something to
Troy,
look forward to.
right? Troy is trying to keep this thing alive, man. Wow. Um, Mr. Rick is going with a 2.
Hmm.
Okay. Mr. Rick saying could have been worse. His makeup could have been CGI. Shout out
True.
the
That is
shout out
true.
shout out to H2O. You guys know how I feel. Oh
Poor
man.
H2O, never going to live down that CGI
Never.
mask.
Hey, look, that moment was like a second on screen. You blink and you miss it, but it's gonna live forever because it's like,
Uh-huh.
how could you guys do that?
I
Oh
know,
my
it's
god.
terrible.
Terrible. Chris saying, I thought Freddy looked his best in Dream Master, makeup, glove, looking its sharpest. I think Freddy's worst makeup was in Freddy versus Jason?
Versus
Wow.
Jason. Oh, wow.
Wow. Uh, you know, and I haven't done it yet. I've actually been thinking about doing it, just talking about the different looks. Um, I don't know, man. I thought he actually looked pretty good in Freddy versus
I
Jason,
did too, yeah.
especially for being that late in the franchise, so many
Hmm.
years removed from 84. Plus the Demon Freddy. I thought that was a great look. That
Mm.
Demon Freddy. I I would have loved a figure of that. People were talking about Super Freddy. I wanted the Demon Freddy figure. Um, Wow. Okay. Ginger Ninja coming in. The makeup was not great in this one. 2 out of 5. Okay, Ginger Ninja, we got you down officially. Thank you so much for your score. Gritter coming in also with a 2 out of 5 for Freddy's makeup. Thank you so much, man. We appreciate it. We're putting you down officially. You guys are giving some good scores to keep this thing from tanking. Let's see. Scott saying Krueger's makeup a 1.5. He looked like a guy in a rubber mask as opposed to a demonic burn victim. Yes, that is so well said. It looked so rubbery, bro. It's like, come on, man. I just can't believe it. I just
It
cannot
almost
believe it.
felt like like in other movies, when you see Freddy, it's like, that's just Freddy. It's his face, he's burned. But in this one, it was like, I felt like I was watching Robert in makeup, you know, like
Yeah.
you weren't watching like a genuine burn victim. I mean, obviously his scars are exaggerated, but you know, in the other
Right.
movies, yeah, it doesn't feel like you're taken out of that reality. But I did several times here. It's like, oh, it's just Robert in makeup. Well, that's not that great.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And we got Mike in the chat. Hey, welcome to the chat. I hope you're doing well. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Hot take 5 is terrible. Yeah, well, I
But
think these scores, I don't know if
A
you've
New
been around.
Nightmare is even worse. That's the hot take because
Ooh,
wow, I do not agree with
yeah.
that.
Yeah, I mean, because
But each to
this,
their own.
yeah, that's true. And I mean, we'll get to A New Nightmare for sure. I think the one thing I can say that I think everyone can agree with is that, you know, Wes definitely tried to backtrack on all the comedy and
Yeah.
cheesiness. So, all right. Chris saying the makeup in Freddy versus Jason just looked fake, more like pizza face, like because his makeup is based off of a pizza. Yeah, it is based off
Yeah.
of pizza. Yeah. Um, all right. Let's see. I think I caught up with everyone. Okay. So you guys are all right. So we went through 10 categories. We gave scores. If you guys are just jumping in, definitely check out the replay. We went through the Dreamscape, cinematography, we went through the kills, the directing, the final girl, the it factor, the mythology, the characters. That was a really fun category to talk about. The atmosphere and Freddy's makeup. Like, you know, again, I think this is what makes doing this series so much fun because you don't know which categories we're gonna do. The wheel is random, and I definitely think the wheel the wheel made it tough for Elm Street 5 today, you know. But it is what it is. I mean, these are things that are interesting talking points for any of these films. So again, if you're new to the channel or you're new to this series, we are just getting going on this Elm Street Great Debate series. We've already done Freddy versus Jason and Nightmare 4. If you haven't checked those out, check those out. This one was a lot of fun, and we're hoping to have some fun with the next one we choose as well. Julie, thank you so much for modding tonight. We appreciate you showing up and being here. It means a lot. It really does. And she's got the link in if you'd like to become a channel member, help support us so we can do more streams like this all the time. You just hit the join button next to the subscribe button or click that link. And we appreciate all the support from all of you guys that are channel members and supporters. Okay. I think that's about it. Spoof saying, when are they making Freddy X in space? They better never, ever do that. I mean, if we have learned anything from Hellraiser, we've learned that only Jason can go to space and make a decent movie. You just can't do it. You just can't do it.
I've mentioned this, but Jason X was the first Friday the 13th movie I ever saw. So that was a bad introduction to the Friday series. Very bad.
There you go. There you go.
Oh dear.
All right. Well, as always, guys, thank you so much for being here. We put the link in the chat and description. If you haven't subscribed to Rachel's channel, make sure you guys do that. You will not be disappointed. And Julie, thank you for putting links in all through the night. We appreciate that. It means a lot. Troy, come on, man. He says Freddy could still make sense in space. They still got a dream, but please don't. Right.
Freddy.
Oh,
Next one up
oh.
on the thing.
Oh my God.
Hey,
And
no one
yes,
can hear you scream, bitch. Sorry.
right, exactly. Yeah. Bon appetit in space, bitch. So, hey, look, um, and thank you, seriously, man, and definitely happy Thanksgiving to all of you guys. Seriously, we hope you guys have a good holiday and spend it with friends and loved ones. So, all right, Scott, thank you, and thank you guys, everyone, being here. We appreciate all the support, and we will catch you guys next time. And as always, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.